It wouldn't.
Lauren's at a doctor's appointment that I wasn't able to go to today because of this. And the boy is 10 months old, and they just processed his circumcision bill. So she had to pay for his circumcision today.
How much?
Take a guess.
I'm going to say this is American Medical Establishment. I'm going to say $13,000.
That's what I would think too.
Yeah.
$208.
What?
I don't know if maybe insurance covered a bunch of it and we just paid a small, I have no idea, but $208.
I mean, the United States government must really want people to be circumcised.
Smoking deal.
I mean, that's the best deal. That is like,
I know.
Makes me want to go get circumcised again just to get that deal.
Well, before we get into today's show, I thought that I expected you to show up decrepit and just like limping in.
Because of
the lack of nutrition that you've been getting in your diet.
It's so true. I feel dizzy right now. I'm sitting kind of spinning in my chair.
I can see it. So
I know.
For that.
Oh, thank you.
Got you covered.
Thank you.
Got you covered. Show the good people on the camera.
I mean, I'm just about ready to pour it dry into my mouth right now.
Like Fun Sticks or Lick-O-Made when you're a kid?
Oh, man. They should do, why doesn't AG1/surf, athleticgreens.com/surf, do Lick-O-Made?
They should.
It's perfection.
Yeah.
I loved Lick-O-Made so much as a
too.
kid. I mean, I think we've probably talked about it on the show.
I think we did at one point.
Yeah. I've done it, like, I remember just being, liking it so much, like taking licks off other people's Lick-O-Made sticks and things like that.
It truly is. It's like cocaine for an adult.
Yeah.
It's like you just get frenzied.
And you need more.
You're like licking your finger, getting into the corner of the pouch,
Yeah.
like sniffing it a little bit.
I mean, it really was so good. It's so good.
3 different flavors, 3 different pouches.
I would even get so into it, I think that I would start nibbling on the stick at the end, which was basically just a giant thing of chalk.
Sugar chalk, though. It was made out of sugar.
I don't think it was that sweet, though, the stick itself. I think it was like fairly
confectioner
bland.
sugar.
Yeah.
Kinda. The stick, I would prematurely nibble on it sometimes just because I had to. You know, it's like you have like a little, like, you just want it. Anyways, athleticgreens.com/surf. Why don't you just read the packaging? What does it say on that front?
On the front, and this is all true, it says comprehensive plus convenient daily nutrition.
What else do you need?
That's all I need. Yeah. Right here. This bag, it has this right here in this bag too. It's a small bag, compact, well designed. It's a 30-day supply right here.
Yeah.
Of nutrition.
Of pure nutrition for the whole fam.
It's
so
perfection.
When you texted me the other day and said, hey, you need to re-up, I forgot to email them to send it. And so today coming in, I remembered and I'm like, oh no, but they've been without for a week. So I gave you some of my
Thank
supply.
you so much.
I'll have them send you and me both resupply.
Yeah, I need my fuel.
Yeah, exactly. So athleticgreens.com/surf for everybody listening to support us and join us in optimal health.
Optimal.
Okay, Chaz, welcome back to the grid. It's August 25th. We're at the beautiful Album Surfboards.
I can't believe we're
California.
Finally back together. There's art on the walls. There, art in the form of art. Looks like an art show might be happening at Album Surfboards.
Art in the form of surfboards also.
I know. It's art everywhere.
Art everywhere. You know what I'm surprised by when I walk in here is we've been recording at Album Surfboards for 4 years or so.
Crazy town.
Crazy. They never run out of concepts for the art on the surfboards.
No.
You know, like there are some that are just pigmented with 1 or 2 tones of color, but then there's these other ones that are more abstract. There's the blue ones out there against the wall that I'm like, I've never seen that design before. That tiger striped resin thing right there, haven't ever seen that before.
None of it feels try hard either. Like, you know, when you see a board sometimes, or sometimes I'll see a board with I'm just going to throw old Matt Mayhem Biolis under the bus right here. Like if I see a Mayhem with a fancy spray, like an artistic or a highbrow spray, I think, try hard. Like it doesn't fit with the brand and it's not, or for me, it doesn't. And it just looks like a mistake. None of Album's sprays ever look like they're trying hard.
You got an artist.
I mean, it's true.
You got an artist in its prime, just pumping out content.
Matt Parker is watching did you think before you were aware of Album or knew Matt Parker that the surfboard space, there was enough room for another legendary shaper to rise?
No.
Like I thought between JS, Mayhem, Channel Islands, what are the other majors? Would you consider
Lost,
the majors?
Rusty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that
DH.
yeah, that nobody would be able to come up and assert as a major player. Of course, there would be, you know, knee shapers and a lot of, you know, local cool shapers and all that kind of stuff. But I thought nobody is going to become ever again a major name. It's all filled.
Well, everything you just named, it was all pointy thrusters.
Yeah.
And so maybe that's filled, but
I don't know
that isn't reflective of the way that surfing takes place around the world. Most people in the lineups are riding something other than, you know, and so Matt kind of building boards for every man and woman.
It's a beautiful, beautiful man.
Yeah. Makes a lot of sense.
Yep.
Feedback and follow-up. Well, I guess this isn't feedback and follow-up. I do have Chopu feedback and follow-up, but let's start with Cersei going to work for the sworn enemy.
Stab Magazine.
Swoop.com.
Your
wife.
For a feature film. Have you seen the film?
Yeah.
Is it good?
Really good.
Yeah. She
didn't watch it? You don't support your wife's work?
No, I don't subscribe to Stab. She doesn't either. Like, hopefully.
So she hasn't seen it?
No.
They should send her.
Hopefully they will. I think she was going to reach out to Sam McIntosh. But yeah, she told me, this was a while, it's not even that long ago. They have quick turnaround on those things. Maybe a month, 2 ago, said, hey, Stab asked me to do this how surfers or whatever, like some business.
How surfers get paid.
Yeah, business side of surfing thing. And I said, sweet, it's great. And so, yeah, I was not there when Sam McIntosh, but they came to the house, I think, right? Did it look like it was shot in the house?
I don't remember.
I think it was shot in the house.
But so the haberdasher, doesn't he work for Stab?
Ashton?
No, the haberdasher.
No, the haberdasher worked for Ashton's wife.
Got it.
Yeah.
For some reason, I thought that he was also.
No, Lil Haberdasher or was partner or something with Ashton's wife.
Okay, so Ashton was not on set.
Ashton was not on set, and I don't even know, was Ashton? I don't know, frankly, if Ashton is involved anymore at all. Does he do the films or anything?
I haven't seen his name on anything in a long time, but I haven't really investigated it either.
There might have been a camera person, but I think it was just Sam.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, I like the trailer.
So it's really well done.
Yeah. Did you learn things?
Yes, I did. And I'll kind of give you an overview. What I liked about it was they're bringing back truth telling and like sensationalism in surf videos. Like when I was growing up and I'd watch a Lost video, there was something crazy that would happen. And it was Chris Ward, like just being Chris Ward and telling the truth that, they used drugs and they got in a fist fight on the beach. There was no covering up or shying away from any of that, right? So in this, Jordy versus Paul Naudet explaining what went down with that Billabong kind of offer to him, Jordy reneging on it, Jordy getting sued, getting served papers on the beach at the U.S. Open. And to kind of break down that story, you should watch the video, but essentially Jordy was turning 18. I think he was on Billabong at the time. And so Billabong, it was time to re-up the contract. They offered him $250,000 a year, which was more money than his family has ever seen, like ever. They were, from modest means in South Africa. And so they shook hands on the deal because he hadn't checked out any other deals. He didn't know what anybody else was offering. But as soon as word got around that he had a handshake deal with Billabong, a bunch of other people stepped up and started offering money. So $700,000, $500,000, then $700,000. It was kind of a bidding war. So Jordy, of course, reneges on the handshake. Paul Naudet sues him. Billabong sues him. And they get into litigation. Ultimately, in the end, Jordy took $1 million contract with somebody else and paid the $500K and just said, you know what, I want to be done with this. F you.
Yeah.
But they have both Paul and Jordy giving their versions of the story.
Fantastic.
And Damien Farrenfort chimes in. Damien's his manager now, Jordy, but not at the time. But they were friends at the time. So everybody's chiming in kind of from the sidelines as well. It's really well. And that's just one. That's before the opening credits.
I mean, that's fantastic. No, I love, I've never understood why surfing is so dang precious. I mean, this is why I stomp around with my big rain boots. It just doesn't make sense why it's so precious about everything, right? Why we can't just be honest about everything.
Well, because they were publicly traded companies at the time making a ton of money, so they were trying to protect those interests. But they weren't before, which is why we saw the stories before, and they're not anymore.
Yeah.
They're BK.
Yeah, that's totally true.
So we're kind of entering a new
exciting
golden era.
except for the fact that we have the World Surf League,
Well-
which is totally in the old era of hiding everything and whitewashing everything.
Well, and they're in a different era entirely of not understanding the sport at all,
Yeah.
trying to like it's the equivalent of rollerblading back in the 90s
Yeah.
is what the way that they are promoting it. But back to the video piece, the other story that was really interesting was Strider telling his origin story. Went into Quicksilver, tried to get a sponsorship. They basically, I think Danny Kwok was like, dude, we got a ton of white dudes
Yeah.
who are trying to show up on the North Shore and get barreled. No thanks. We don't need another one. But somebody pulled him aside when he was leaving and goes, here's some stickers. Here's $500. Strider's like, $500 isn't going to get me far. So I strapped weed to my leg and flew over there, sold the weed, and then was able to exist for 3 months with 500 plus the weed sale, and ended up getting a cover shot with those stickers on his board. And then he, took off in his career.
Fantastic.
But him just revealing that,
Being honest.
Yeah. You know what I mean? Like that kind of candid stuff I appreciate. So it made me love Jordy more.
Yep.
Made me appreciate Strider more.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like
of course.
this all endeared. And then I read the comments and everybody's ripping apart Paul Naudet.
Yeah.
And so whether or not they ever take any action with their thoughts about Paul Naudet, by not supporting him or whatever is who knows.
Yeah.
But it was interesting to see that largely Paul Naudet was right. And he was within,
Sure.
He was operating in the best interest of the company. All of that, like his story is justifiable. His version of it is totally fine. But in the court of public opinion, it does not
He's
come
the bad
across
guy.
because Jordy rips.
Yeah.
That's kind of what it all comes down to, All
funny.
is forgiven because Jordy freaking rips. So you just want to...
The weird thing is about things like that, I suppose, is that say that won in court, right? That took Jordy to court, won. Jordy had to ride for Billabong. Imagine having a team rider who you had to sue to get to ride for your company. How that looks. How the team
point.
rider is gonna. Is he gonna be out there being a great ambassador for the brand? I don't think so. But
Great point.
Yeah.
Well, the other interesting point is the $500,000, I'm almost certain didn't matter to Billabong.
Yeah.
Like them actually receiving that
Check.
it was completely on principle. It was completely just to kind of set a precedent for other athletes who might try to do something similar. But the court of public opinion, I guess they didn't know about it at the time, but the court of public opinion now, the PR of it is worse.
Yeah.
It would cost you $500K in bad press.
Yeah. I mean, if you would have just said, "Oh, Jordy, I understand shook hands before seeing what was out there. Go, son. Like, go out there."
Yeah. But he would
See
never
what
have
there
gotten
is.
the praise for that,
That's
probably
true.
either. It's all interesting.
Yeah.
Really interesting.
Well, I mean, I love that we are back, at least outside of the World Surf League, because truth is more, it's both stranger than fiction and also more interesting than fiction.
Completely. Yeah. We need to recap Chopes a little bit.
Let's do it.
We've got a listener line call. We have 2 listener line calls that'll help us kick off this segment. One is a follow-up call from Teva, who helped us understand how to pronounce.
This is the one I've been waiting for.
I know. Lots of feedback on this.
David, Chaz, this is Teva doing a follow-up call on Teahupo'o. First of all, let me just say bravo to the both of you on your much improved pronunciation of the word Teahupo'o. So per Chad's question, in the case you have to say Teahupo'o 50 times in order to unpack the Tahiti contest, I personally feel it's okay to say Chopes instead of Teahupo'o. And here's why. The bonsai pipeline, most of us call it pipe. As a Grom living in Tahiti, one of the marquee surf spots was Teahupo'o. Over the years, I heard a lot of locals and non-locals call it taps. So Chopes, taps, Teahupo'o, Chopes. That's my 2 cents. Keep up the good work. Maruru et bon voyage.
Thank goodness.
Maruru. Yeah. I am so thankful that we can stay with Chopes.
Me too.
Listening to
Fully approved.
the broadcast, I think I watched more Tahiti than any contest this year, right? Which is, I guess, nice time zone thing for us, but also pumping surf at the end. If it's good surf, I'll watch it, even against my better judgment, right? I had better things to do, but just sat there, slack-jawed watching. The amount, like the torture of the way everyone was saying Teahupo'o
Good job.
was almost more than I could take.
Yeah.
Like, it absolutely fried my brain.
Somebody sent me a note about it, and I don't have it in front of me, but it was something to the effect of, like, it's one thing to be respectful of the indigenous people and to make an effort, but it really can go too far where it feels almost disingenuous and
farcical.
Performative.
I mean, it was straight up farce by the time the contest. I don't know how they must not have anyone in the booth. I mean, in the directing the show, they must not have a director, like, who's
he's handing out jerseys. He's sitting on a boat taking selfies with Kelly and handing out jerseys.
Yeah. I mean, it's crazy town that somebody said, hey guys, lighten up on saying the word just a little bit, right? Yeah. Like, everybody's aware that, Kaipo, everybody's aware that you are giving a, indigenous pronunciation lesson. That's fine. You've given that lesson. Maybe every couple hours you can come back to it, but let's not do it every heat, 5 times a heat.
Yeah. You just said it right now, and it sounded like you said it correctly.
Teahupo'o. Yeah.
Yeah. I have a hard time saying it.
Yeah, Teahupo'o.
Or I have to pause, think it through, and then say it.
Yeah.
I cannot incorporate it into because the other version of it is seared in first. So obviously calling it chopes is approved by Teva, so we can stick with that.
I like chaps. What did he say, the first one?
Yeah, I don't know that spot.
I like that even better.
Yeah. But there's an old man. When I was growing up, I knew a number of old dudes who would say something incorrectly, and then you correct them, and then they go back and just say it incorrectly again. And, like, there was no amount of correcting, and I just thought they were dumb.
Yeah.
Now I find myself encountering the same with this word specifically, not with a lot of words. And so I'm wondering if it's just an old age thing. If you've said a word for 40 years, it's very difficult to then replace it with a different sound.
I think also, I mean, some of it may be conscious, some of it may be, or subconscious like that. I think some of it possibly is conscious, where knowing that you're going to sound dumb and the conversation, it's exactly like, again, tortilla or cappuccini or any foreign word in English language that you're going to, like, it's going to scratch the record a little bit when you say it.
Yeah.
And just, so I think then consciously, I don't think dumb old men do this, but I think consciously you're making a decision to either scratch the record or not, right?
Yeah.
So when we're talking about the Tahiti Pro outer known at, where is it again?
Teahupo'o.
Do you feel that scratched the record?
Yeah, it did. There was a pause
Teahupo'o.
But okay, so everybody's been saying it wrong all along.
Yeah.
Same thing goes with the phrase, which we've talked about in the past, I could care less.
Yeah, couldn't care less.
People say I could care less, but the correct way to say it is I couldn't care less.
Yes.
But because it is so commonplace to say it incorrectly.
You know what it means.
If I now say I couldn't care less, that's almost the record scratch.
Yeah.
Saying it correctly is the record scratch,
I could not, you should really emphasize, I could not care less.
Right.
Yeah.
But you don't ever correct anybody for saying it wrong. And in fact, you yourself just start saying it wrong so that you could fit in with society.
Do you never? Every once in a while, if I hear the I could care less, I will respond with, then do.
Yeah,
how about it?
Okay, that might be one way to handle it.
Care less, my friend.
Yeah. It depends, I suppose, on the conversation. That's a full record scratch, though.
Yeah.
Only a couple of things we need to discuss about Teahupo'o.
Yeah.
Because it's been a week.
Teahupo'o, but since Teahupo'o wrapped.
Correct.
It's hard to throw a glottal stop in there. That's the thing. To continue on your next,
True.
English has few or doesn't have many glottal stops.
True.
So the Teahupo'o, and then the next word is what's difficult.
Yeah, there's 2 spaces between them almost. Where we ended last week's show was, spent the entire show was, watching Philippe live, where he didn't catch a wave. There was a wave, but he really didn't catch any waves in that heat. He ended up surfing in the elimination round against Nathan Hedge.
Shock news story today on Beach Grit. First up, you know who is to blame for his performance? The judges.
I saw his Instagram.
Yeah.
Is that where you got the story from?
Yeah.
Yeah. So after we got off the mics, later in the day, he surfed against Nathan Hedge and got a couple of waves. He got a couple of 7s in his heat. I would argue they were safely surfed. You know, he wasn't charging by any stretch of the imagination, but they were big, scary waves that he got, and he got 7s on. Nathan smoked him still, so Felipe lost. But he did take to Instagram, I think even that day, and said, hey, I'm really proud of my performance. And I think the judges actually underscored my 7s, but no big deal going into the finals at lowers in first place still. So gearing up for that. Then there was a ton of, echo chamber of support in his comments, including his dad chiming in, being like, you have nothing to prove to anybody. You're the best surfer of all time. Bravo. You wear, your heart on your sleeve and you charge today, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, first of all, no, he didn't. No, he didn't. And secondly, okay, what about blaming the judges?
I mean, this whole thing, it's just asinine, right? Like, I'll just admit, I get pleasure piling on Philippe, but because it's really funny, right? The thing that makes it funny is that it's obvious to everyone that he's afraid, and he just won't admit it.
It's crazy.
That's all I would totally, if he said, look, going back to the start of this conversation, living in an era of open honesty, right? That's what's best. That's what I want to hear. That's what I like, right? If Philippe got on the boat afterwards and said, in my heat with Kelly and Hedge, I was terrified. It was so scary. It freaked me out. I had to sit out the back because I was so scared. I know that is not, I'm a pro surfer and I need to get over this, and I'm going to work really hard in the future to improve here because I know that's what I need to do to be the greatest surfer, right? But that day, I'm not there yet, right? I would so fall in love with Felipe Toledo. His straight up denial and saying, I'm brave, I bravely charge, I am a charger, I have nothing to prove, that's what's mockable. And that's why I will continue to tweak it, because that's what's really funny. In that dissonance or that disconnect is where it's just rich comedy, right?
Yeah.
Don't want to make him cry. And I know I'm
agree.
hurting his feelings. Like, you could tell in the comments and what his dad says too, like, you have nothing to prove to anybody, that it's all getting to him, right? Like, and
that's a great point.
It's all getting to him. And so he builds an even thicker shell of this weird internal, I guess, personal wall of positive noise of, I am great. I am not afraid. I'm a charger. I'm a little lion.
Doesn't bode well.
No.
Like it's a thin veneer and it shows a real fragility.
Yeah. I mean, it for sure won't bode well when he wins. I mean, I was thinking of it on the drive up. There's no way he's losing, right? I mean, I suppose anything can happen in a surf heat, right? Like Jack Robinson could go against him in the finals, and Philippe could just somehow get skunked, and, or Jack could get a wave and does the craziest thing ever seen. But I mean, Felipe Toledo is, I write it in headlines, but there's absolutely no doubt that he is the world's greatest small wave surfer.
No doubt.
Like, he is the best by far in small waves, right? And so you got to think he's going to win. And so going in then all proud, like raising the trophy, and when every like core surf fan at least knows you won, you're champion, with a giant old asterisk because you're afraid of Teahupo'o.
He can argue, what about those 2 7s? Not afraid.
Yeah, I'll say then show it. Like, all he needs to do, one wave out there. He needs to have one that Kelly and Hedge were trading, right?
Yeah.
One of those. One where he's deep, vertical, like stinking Matthew McGillivray's wave, right?
Oh,
where it's absolutely out of control, like board going sideways, weird airdrop. He needs one of those.
I'd argue he doesn't even need to get a 10 like that. He just needs to go on a wave like that,
Yeah.
even if he falls.
Yeah.
Like Jadson Andre has 1/4 of the talent when he stands up on his feet as Felipe Toledo does, but there's no questioning his heart
Yeah.
and him wanting it.
Yeah.
Whether it's at sunset, the box, pipe, anywhere.
Yep.
He's out there charging. And then that 1/4 of talent is enough for him to actually land on his feet once in a while and get an 8 or whatever. And that's even more celebratory or whatever. But Felipe got barreled on a couple of safe waves, but we never saw him want it.
That's and to me, Philippe saying I charge like everybody else makes a mockery of the work that Jadson and all the guys who really aren't as talented as him, but go throw themselves off ledges. Philippe saying I'm like you, it makes a mockery of those guys' work.
Yeah, it's interesting. As we're discussing it, I was thinking about finals day, and yes, you're right. He was the one who I would bet money on. Even if he was in the 5th position, I would bet money on him at lowers.
Yeah.
Now I am absolutely rooting against him because of this storyline that's been taking place over the couple of years. First of all, I don't want my world champ, our world champ, to be somebody who's afraid in surf.
Afraid and doesn't admit it. Afraid in self-denial.
Full stop.
Yeah.
But yes, that then makes me vote against him.
I'm okay with the fear as long as if he said, I'm scared, like for me, it would need two things. It would be, I'm scared and I want to get better.
That's fine to endear me to him as a surfer, but I don't want my world champ to be that guy.
Yeah.
I want my world champ to be able to surf sunset, or pipe, certainly pipe. So I would now I'm thinking about like these matchups. Ethan Ewing could win this event. I mean, he's got a talent to it's a different degree than Felipe. It's not as fast or zippy, but he does have like a power and a finesse and a style that Felipe doesn't have. So I could see him even beating Jack and then beating Felipe if the waves are big and the conditions are right. Kano Igarashi, you can't count him out. Idolo, you can't count him out. They're not top picks, but you can't count them out.
I would like to be proven wrong in this assessment. Again, thinking about it on the drive up as I'm passing lower trestles, thinking that this final 5-day thing, it adds a lot of, nobody likes it, right? Or, I mean, as a surf fan, you want your champion, I suppose, to have won properly, be the best over the course of the year, not a fluke, right? But I was thinking last year too, Connor at the 5th position, I think, beat O'Leary. Was it O'Leary?
Morgan Siblick.
Morgan Siblick in the 4th position. But that was the only loss of a top seed to the lower seed all day. I would like to be proven wrong and see all kinds of weird upsets. I think all those guys are so good and they will do what they're supposed to do.
Yeah.
I will say 4 will beat 5, 3 will beat 4, 2 will beat 3, and 1 will beat 2.
That makes sense.
And that'll be it. Like,
yeah,
I would love to see some shock and surprise. I'd love to see, stinking, I don't know, any one of them like run for 3 or something. That would be exciting. I just don't see it happening.
It'd be exciting, and it would be fun just to see the concept of finals day be made a mockery of.
Yeah.
But I don't see it happening either. But I am rooting against Felipe now.
I mean, yeah, I'm rooting for him because it makes the storyline funnier and it gives a whole year of like WSL, like your champion is afraid of big surf, specifically Teahupo'o, and will not admit it.
That's true, but it doesn't make as much of a mockery as it would of the WSL's concept of finals day entirely.
Do you think all of this, of course, is purely subjective, right? The judges, Philippe can say, I'm not scared all he wants. The judges were stinking there watching him not go. The damming heat, not the heat he served against Hedge. Of course, he slipped into, a couple waves. So did stinking Courtney Conalog. She the one? She won, yeah?
Yeah.
She got a sick barrel. All good.
That would have been the matchup.
Yeah.
Courtney versus Philippe.
Yeah. So all good. Great. Good job. The judges were watching him bob out the back, knowing that he's chicken. If it's coming down to the wire between him and Jack, say, in the finals, does Jack get an emotional, 0.2 extra added? Because those judges are not non-surfers, right? Those judges are all, I would imagine, core surfers who personally do not like people chickening out.
Yep. I think Jack has actually gotten that nod throughout this season, time and time again.
Yeah, because
he's been in situations where he has he's behind, he needs a score, and there's 10 seconds on the clock, and he gets a wave, and we all thought he didn't get the score, but the judges gave him the score. That's happened 2 or 3 times this season.
Which I would imagine because he charges, and surfers like people who charge.
He's already, yes, agreed. Interestingly, one of the things that Paul Naudet said in that stab piece was, hate to tell you, competitive professional surfers, free surfers are who influence our culture.
Yeah.
They're the ones who influence the kids. They're the ones who influence, style and board design and all this kind of stuff. And they gave examples, and I thought about it, and I'm like, he's entirely right. We all want to be Curran. We all want to be nobody really wants to be Gabriel Medina.
No,
nobody.
I think it could be argued that the surfers on tour who have like gone to who have influenced did it because of their extracurriculars too, right?
Andy Irons
and Kelly Slater.
Totally.
It's like black and white and those kinds of it's his film work as much as his his titles are great. Kelly's 11 world titles, but I don't think the surf fan loves Kelly just for his titles, right? It's for everything.
John.
Yeah.
You think about all of his films,
Yep.
So that relates to what you're talking about with Jack Robinson is yes, he does get that extra little bit of a nod because we think of him charging North Point as a 13-year-old and what he does at Pipe and what he does at Sunset and what he does at Teahupo'o. So yes, that matters.
Yeah.
So let's talk about Kelly's heat real quick, where he pulled the Felipe and didn't get a wave until the very last 2 minutes.
Yeah.
And it was a marginal wave. I think he finished with less than 2 points on the, this was a semifinal heat. This was against the wild
Cowley
card.
Vast.
Yes. What say you? Was there a conspiracy that we need to discuss?
I know.
What was the strategy?
People were messaging me and emailing me that Kelly threw the heat. I don't for it to be conspiracy, there has to be a reason. And I was like, definitely not. I think Kelly's way too competitive. I think Kelly is
Agreed.
way, 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 way too competitive to ever throw the heat. So I asked somebody who emailed and said, I think Kelly's too competitive. What reason would there be? It's a wave he loves. It's a way, he's at Teahupo'o, a wave he loves, a wave that he wants to prove himself in. It would have been a great bookend, right? He would have won Pipe at the first event, won Teahupo'o as the final event,
In pumping surf.
Yeah, in pumping surf. He would have got to surf more. I think it can always be stated that Kelly loves to surf, right? Gotten to surf some more heats, etc. What would the reason have been? And person responded, because it's a good look to have, it's his event, the Outer Known Tahiti Pro, of course, sponsored by Kelly Slater's company, to have the local wild card beat Kelly is a good look. I was like, no way. Yeah,
not as good of a look as Kelly winning the event when he's 50.
I mean, and especially not to Kelly, even though it would have been all kinds of questions. Oh, cool, Kelly, you won your own event. It's like, natural selection, Travis Rice snowboard event. Travis started it, and I always think that it'd be great for, it's great. I think Travis did win one of them last year, one of the stops. But it instantly creates questions if Kelly would win, unless you absolutely dominate, it's like, he won his own event. Cool.
Yeah.
But anyway, I think with Kelly not getting a wave in that heat, rule out fear, right? That's the problem with Philippe is fear is why he didn't. And it was just, I think Kelly maybe got in a mode or a mood where he was just looking for bombs, and there was no more. There was no more bombs.
So this is exactly what it looked like, and it's exactly what Kelly expressed or tried to express in his post-heat interview, which was, I had a strategy, and it was to go out and sit and get a good wave. And Kaiuli sat on the inside, and he got a 7 or whatever, and he backed that up, and so I'm waiting for my good wave. That wave didn't come. So that is what it is. However, what was strange to me is that Kelly has always had plan A, plan B, plan C, plan D, plan E. That's Kelly's strength, is that he's got all of these backup plans, contingencies that he can implement instantaneously to get the upper hand. We've never seen him not make a move.
Yeah.
And so we have seen in recent years him losing his fastball in certain ways. It started with small waves. Kelly's not quite as spry as Felipe at Snapper in 2000 and whatever year, 15. He's not doing as big of airs in small waves. Okay, cool. We'll let him have that one because he's getting older, And then we see him lose like little priority battles here and there. And this to me was a further kind of indicator of Kelly. The one thing that he's always had that we've never been able to question or take away with him, the competitive prowess. He's got 30 years on everybody.
Yeah.
And this was an indicator to me of like, man, there's a dull edge now that I've never noticed before.
Talked about or led this segment off with talking about his competitive fire, like that he is the most competitive. Maybe he's not anymore. Maybe the fire has gone out, right? Where he's out there with thinking, what does this matter, right? Like this, I want a bomb here. That's what I want from this heat is a bomb. I don't care about winning the heat. I'm here to surf, and I'm not here to, get a bunch of whatever, sevens and win the event. If I happen to win the event because I do what I want to do, catch a bomb, then that's great. But the event win is only the frosting. The cake is catching a bomb.
Yeah, maybe.
So if you
shocking to see though.
But if you don't care about competing, that's what I think about him. It is shocking to see, but also great. He doesn't care about competing. He'll be on tour next year. I figure he'll go. It's exactly why he doesn't go to Brazil or El Salvador. He'll go to the events he wants to go to, I feel, to surf those waves that he loves with one or two other people in the water. That's why he's on tour now.
Of course. That all makes sense if the entire event was run in 3-foot surf. I understand he wouldn't undignify himself or whatever that to go on the inside and try to get a 3-footer.
Yeah.
But he got those crazy 8-footers throughout the event. Now it's 6 feet instead of 8. Just win this heat. The event will always be remembered for the great surf. Now go ahead and win the event that had great surf. Move inside and get a couple sevens.
Just can't do it.
I know.
He cannot bring himself to care.
No.
That's what that heat looked like.
Yeah.
To me, he honestly could not bring himself to care.
Yeah.
And maybe it was a bummer for him too. Maybe he's out there thinking, for the first time in my life, I don't care.
Yeah, which is, he's becoming a more mature human being.
Sure.
You shouldn't have cared about professional surfing this hard for this long.
But a great thing about Kelly, though, back to our theme of truth, Kelly will always tell the truth, or his version of the truth, right? Where I think Kelly would say, I think directly to camera in the microphone, I don't care about competing anymore if he doesn't, right?
Yeah.
He won't be, unlike Philippe, who will pound his chest harder and say,
right,
I'm the big man. I will go on anything.
The other big story coming out of this event that we need to discuss is Eric Logan narrowly survives life-threatening reef injury.
Close one.
What?
A close one.
Underreported on all outlets other than Beach Grit's 8 stories.
I cannot believe that nobody else was running this headline every day.
Crazy. It's the CEO.
The CEO of professional surfing.
Walk me through.
Almost died.
Walk our listeners through.
Well, so there I was scrolling through Instagram, not expecting to be shocked, expecting to enjoy something maybe.
See a crazy Russian.
Little laugh. Look at the crazy Russian. See a smiling cat. And I see a bloodied foot. Looked up. Who's this account belong to? Eric Logan, CEO of the World Surf League. Looked back down. His foot had been scraped. Looked by, and then, we have Renato Hickel, the deputy commissioner there, stern face, looking to the camera, saying, Eric Logan has received his first Tahiti tattoo, and we're going to apply lemon lime. It seemed like he was confused by what he was holding.
Limon.
Yeah, limon, which makes sense, all the same in Spanish, and maybe all the same in Portuguese. Anyhow, it's not the same. It's Lima. Is it Lima and limon?
I'm not sure.
Yeah. Anyway.
There are crossbreeds of those two citrus fruits.
Sure. Anyhow, Primata, what's his name again?
Pratamo.
Pratamo was standing there, head judge, providing nursing assistance. Then Hickel proceeded to rub the citrus into Logan's wound. Logan gasped and squeaked and squealed and stomped his other foot, and then goes dark, right? We don't know what happened. As you know, people thought it was maybe overblown. What kind of infection can you get from a reef cut? Staph infection is deadly, man.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I was worried. When he went dark for 24 hours, I was more worried. 42, I think, most worried. And then he resurfaced.
Okay. But what happened during that time? Maybe
I
he was
don't
in
know.
the hospital.
He could have been. When his resurface picture, he is standing. It's a photo from the finals day or the end of the finals. He's standing with the event winners and runners up. Zoom in on his eyes, listeners. Red rimmed as any. Looked like he had been weeping for at least some of that time.
Definitely.
Some of the 48 hours was teary.
So he's alive, but narrowly.
Narrowly alive, and if you also zoom in on the picture, his right foot, injured foot, bandaged, and he was wearing reef booties on stage. So scared of re-hitting the reef that he's wearing reef booties everywhere now. Stupid reef booties.
Prudent. I do expect him to be prudent. Why is everybody shirtless around here?
I don't know. Everybody's wandering through shirtless.
Everybody in Album Surfboards has no shirt on.
It's really weird.
We didn't know Thursdays was no shirt day. Strange. So continuing Eric's role in this event is worth discussing because we used to joke. They've been firing everybody from the WSL.
Yeah.
Kanoa paddles out at Surf Ranch with the Agarshi jersey, and we're like, gosh, they're getting people's photos wrong on their graphics. Information's missing on websites. So the joke 2 or 3 years ago was like, gosh, they fired everybody. What, it's just Eric Logan and Dave Prodan now like running the show. Eric Logan's silk screening the jerseys. He's getting it wrong, you know? Well, literally at this event, he's handing out the jerseys to the surfers before their heats. He's presenting the trophy at the boat afterwards. He's providing some commentary. He was running a lot of roles at this event.
I mean, I honestly think
caddying for Slater at one point.
I truly think that he was key caddied for Slater.
I don't know if he was in the lineup, but he did. Somebody said he is caddying, and I think he was handing his board off the boat.
Okay, so he was like secondary caddy, not in the
Somebody
lineup.
said caddying.
Okay.
I didn't witness it myself, and I feel like Strider might have been the guy. Who said it.
Okay. I mean, yeah, I feel that they basically have fired everyone. It's Jesse Miley Dyer, Dave Prodan, and Eric Logan. Plus, I mean, before his almost his life-threatening reef injury, he did a quick tour. Did you see that on his Instagram of like the event production kind of thing? And it was interesting. You know, everybody likes a peek behind the scenes, right? Don't you?
Yeah.
It was threadbare. It was like one person on a computer here, you know, one person over here. Like didn't seem like a busy beehive.
Yeah. Well, I got a note from a listener who said, I had commented about Eric about that exact thing and it being a little sycophantic.
Yeah.
You know, of like he is throwing shakas with Kelly, like on his Instagram. He's like selfie mode, taking photos with these guys, hooting for him. He's the CEO.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it's a little bit, I don't know if it's unprofessional or whatever, or a conflict. It's not a conflict of interest, but it feels something, right? Anyways, this guy commented and said, in regard to the unprofessionalism regarding Eric Logan, it's clear that he's just bragging about being Kelly's board caddy. He wants so badly for the surfers to like him and to be one of them that he is willing to help a competitor in an event that he's in charge of just so he can say he was in the water with them. What a kook. Now imagine how bad it would look if the WSL's commissioner affected a Dallas Cowboys game by being on the field as a part of their team. And I agree. That's exactly what it is.
I mean,
it's a little bit of that Ashton Goggins school of production where it's like, I want to be your best friend. But when you see him smiling and giggling and trying to crack a joke and trying so hard, it really does. Not only does it come off cringy, which it did in Eric Logan's case as well, you are now a part of the story.
Yeah.
You should never be a part of this story. More so in the competitive arena. You should be completely removed. Handing out jerseys, being a board caddy. It's across the line.
I mean, I am very, very, very thankful to Eric Logan for giving me a lot more to write about. Without Eric Logan, you know, like the Sophie Goldschmidt years, what? Like I got one story every 4 months out of Soph, right? Like there was not much there. But that probably is how a CEO is supposed to act. I suppose, though, Eric could be going after the Dana White model, maybe, where Dana White is front and center of the UFC's brand, right?
Yeah.
And so he could be thinking,
It's totally different though.
well, I mean, Dana White is a entertainer.
Yes.
Like Eric Logan is not an entertainer, but I don't want Eric to change. I want more Eric. I need more Eric.
I mean, now I feel I need to unpack this a little bit, that analogy. I was going to say Eric, it's like he's clearly a huge fan of surfing. He's a new fan of surfing, but he's a huge fan of surfing. And that's not necessarily a bad thing.
No.
But I feel like it's his primary thing.
Yeah.
Whereas Dana White, he's clearly a fan of MMA. His first and foremost thing is to make $1 billion.
Yes.
You know, and there's no question about it. And that's what's in front of everything. And then he's a fan of these things also, but he's going to point his finger in Tito Ortiz's face and tell him exactly where he stands in line. I don't see, and that could be his marquee guy. He'll have that confrontation with Conor McGregor. I don't see Eric having that confrontation with Kelly.
Well, I mean, just nobody in UFC is more famous than Dana White, right? Like somebody at their height like a Conor McGregor at his absolute peak, sure has more Instagram fans, has more, headlines, has more, his Q rating or whatever it's called is higher, but nobody's more famous than Dana White, right? And where that's the problem with Eric is, so White never looks, I don't know, like he's pandering.
No.
Where Logan looks like he's pandering all the time.
All the time.
Yeah. But it's, again, and please keep going, Eric Logan. I love it.
But it also,
I need it.
To kind of the listener's point, and I think what you and I have kind of just felt without saying is, it's to the detriment of the initial goal, which is making that sport profitable or making it a legitimate sport. It's undermining the legitimacy.
I've thought of this. I was thinking of it yesterday. Out surfing yesterday. A little pulse of swell. You get in the water yesterday?
I don't know. 2 days ago. Tuesday morning.
Nice and warm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Little swell. Warm, great. Packed. Everywhere was packed, right? This is like mid-morning, workday mid-morning. Yeah. Packed. Bunch of people on wave storms down the beach. Thankfully, I was not surfing the wave storm peak, but watching them walk up the path and everything, and thinking about Elo, and it was Elo whose whole thing was, hey, this rising tide is going to float all ships, right? Thinking that if we can make professional surfing more popular, if we can make surfing in general more popular, there will be more money for everybody. There will be more opportunities for everybody. This is great for everybody, right?
Right.
Thinking what a junk show it's all become, where yes, no more people are watching the WSL, I imagine, than were before. I would imagine their numbers are, aside from people watching during COVID when there was no events versus now, sure, oh wow, we're up 1 billion%. But aside from that, I would imagine that WSL viewership growth is probably consistent, right? I mean, I think they're doing a better job in the social media and stuff, or their social media is more robust, right? So I would imagine more people are aware that it exists and are watching. That relative to terms of people in the water is nothing.
Right.
And the people in the water realizing they're not consuming anything other than Costco junk, and none of that money is going to the core surfboard shaper or, the independent boutique, Birdwell trunks or any of this, right? These people are wearing like Adidas shorts riding a stinking Costco board, and that person is never going to transition into anywhere near core. He will buy another Costco board and another one and another pair of, whatever trunks, and then from Costco, and then maybe get a wetsuit eventually if he decides to go in the winter from Costco. And not all of the only person making money from this is Costco. So like, damn you, Eric Logan, and your dumb rising tide analogy.
I do love Costco though.
Yeah, it's all great. But
real quick, I forgot to plug that camera in.
Oh, yours? Oh, perfect. Yeah, but that, like, realizing that this giant spike in surf and surf consumption is only going to Costco.
Doesn't convert to
Quicksilver, even the like core adjacent, like your Quicksilver Billabongs who are, whatever. Ooh, heard a rumor. Speaking of, Derek published it. It's too late that they're on the block. Quick Billabong. Yeah, that's an old story.
Well, the WSL we talked about a couple of weeks ago canceled the Challenger Series event in France. That was a big news story. It was a big blow to that level of surfer who's trying to qualify or trying to just earn contest winnings. But they are running an event in France. Do you want to hear?
The night event.
You want to hear from the commissioner herself?
Yes.
Listen how exciting this is.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, it's thrilling to hear about this event. I mean, I wanted the CS event, the Challenger Series event, but they've replaced it with, get ready for it.
Okay, so picture this, right? You were in Anglet last week and you got to watch our night surfing event. So this is one of my most favorite events that we have on the calendar. I mean, look at it. It's a bit of a party, which everyone loves. And it's surfers competing at night with glow sticks. And you can see why I would like it. It's just pure neon, but it's fun. And it's something different, right? So you can see that's Paulina Doe, and she ended up winning as part of the team. But I mean, who doesn't want to do this?
This is one of my favorite events on the calendars. Surfers competing with glow sticks.
It's really
Welcome
good.
to professional surfing in 2022.
It is really good. If you were a Challenger Series warrior, a QS warrior of old, and you saw this, how would you feel?
Insulted, slapped in the face with a baguette.
Bang. Have you ever slapped anybody or been slapped with one of those neon glow sticks?
No.
It hurts so bad.
I can imagine.
You can get a real whip on it. It stings like anything.
They're canceling the CS event and running a glow stick night surfing event, and it is the commissioner's favorite event on the calendar. Who doesn't want this? It's a party, which everybody loves. No, you're the WSL. We want to see surfers get barreled at reef passes.
It's really funny.
Full stop.
It is really, really funny.
It's insane.
I mean, yeah.
If we were doing an SNL skit trying to make a mockery of, that's what we would have written.
I mean, it's really, really funny. It is.
Truth is stranger than fiction.
It is. How tone deaf. I mean, please, WSL, keep being you. I do not want it to change. I know that we do want barreling reef pass surf, but for my brand of journalism, this is way, way better.
It's you don't even need to write about it. It's written itself. It's insane.
I mean, the best part, I started my surf writing career, and why I call myself a surf journalist is based on the pure absurdity of it all, right? It is surfing itself is an absurd pursuit, right? It is, of all the things in the world that you could be doing, just trying to fight world, starvation, curing cancer, all this stuff, of all the even pastimes you could be doing, tennis with this, history and objective scoring and all this kind of stuff. You come down, surfing is maximum absurd, right? It is max absurdism, which is why I love it. Camus loved writing absurd novels. One of my favorite writers, stinking Kafka. Love Metamorphosis. Love the absurdity I always have. Surf journalism, an absolute oxymoron, right? But that's why I need this. I need peak absurdity to continue.
Well, zero self-awareness.
Yeah. I mean, that's what makes, neither for Jesse Miley nor for Logan.
Right.
There's a lack of self-awareness. That's the thing though. Again, and this is what, back to Felipe Toledo, this is where he's falling too. If you lie to yourself enough, then you believe it, right? And so this wall of positive noise that they have built, now they believe it. They're all behind there actually believing what they're saying.
Right.
Just like Felipe Toledo is actually believing that he is a Chopu charger, a Teahupo'o charger.
Yeah. It's a consensual hallucination.
Yeah.
They all just start believing it. And it's they've believed it for long enough and they're all consensually doing it enough in this little circle that they don't realize how farcical it looks from the outside.
I mean,
and also how niche, what they're doing is it's like, hey, you guys, the entire world doesn't care. Nobody cares. Even in the surf world doesn't really care that much about competitive surfing. You guys think this is the only type of surfing that exists, and your version of it is now so far removed that you're just over here in this bubble doing this performative dance, and we're just sitting around. I mean, initially we were upset. We were always laughing. Initially we were upset because you're supposed to be the arbiter and you're supposed to be representing it. But now it's just laughable.
Comedy.
Now it's pure comedy.
Well, the bummer is, though, for them, I feel, is so there is, you're exactly right, this consensual hallucination. They're all agreeing to believe this, but they're looking out at the audience laughing fully. I mean, you could just see it. Like, I think Logan does a great job of either bearing it or maybe he doesn't feel it, right? Eric Logan, from times I've spent with him and conversations I've had with him, maybe he thinks, I see you laughing at me and I don't care. I'm having the time of my stinking life and I'm building something here, right?
Yeah, but
well, I don't care if you're laughing.
He's not. Driving it into a ditch. He's losing money.
Sure, but he can be thinking that himself, right? Like, I see you laughing. I see you audience laughing. I don't care. I'm living my best life, right? I think Philippe looks out, and Jessie Miley, maybe too, looks out. I don't know so much about her. Maybe she's, I have no idea about her. About Philippe, though, he looks out and sees the people laughing and thinks, you're all wrong haters. Like,
yes, that's
you are wrong. And that's the weird part about that. And I think a lot of people at the WSL probably are looking out at the people laughing, thinking, you're all negative. I mean, like Dirk Ziff with his classic, you're grumpy locals. You're just grouchy people. We're trying to do something good for you, and you are mocking us because you suck, not because we're laughable.
I had the great pleasure of spending a bit of time with Dave Parmenter over the years.
Great.
And he'd always, I mean, well before I ever met him, he abandoned professional surfing for all of these reasons. And it wasn't as much of a mockery when he identified it. He was so prescient in his seeing where things were going. And so there's a famous story of him, surfing Huntington Beach during the US Open, or maybe the OP Pro at the time. And it was small, and everybody's forced basically by the judging criteria to ride pointy thrusters and like wiggle essentially. And he's like, no, these are longboard waves. So he took a longboard out just in defiance to do kind of surfing should be about surfing. These waves call for this equipment. So I'm going to ride this equipment. I know I'm going to lose. I don't care about winning anymore. So he abandoned the tour, kind of focused on just riding waves in the ocean. And that's what he's done ever since. But, I'll have conversations with him about like, oh man, Pipe's coming up. Aren't you excited? And he's like, Pipe? Like, you're referring to the contest ad Pipe? And I'm like, yeah, Pipe. He's like, dude, no, I have no interest in watching that. And I'm like, yeah, but I remember the year that Felipe did the aerials at J Bay, and I'm trying to convince him of like,
how great it is.
Dave, this is revolutionary, And he was just like looking at me like, you don't get it at all. You don't see how much of a circus that is. And now I've come to his side entirely, and I had these little valid arguments along the way, but they never were good enough arguments to supersede the main point of what he was saying, which is that's an entire circus that flies in the face of what surfing is.
But I will disagree with Dave Parmenter in the, yes, it's a circus. That's why we watch. We go and watch circuses. They're fun, right? You're sitting in the big top next to your buddy, eating peanuts, elbowing each other and laughing at the clowns, right? And for Dave, you to think that life, I mean, just using Dave as a straw man, for Dave, for you to think life needs to be an avant-garde film, that, a French avant-garde film that we all sit and drink red wine and smoke, very seriously too, that all of this is serious. No, the WSL is perfect as a clown show. That's why we watch.
Yeah, they just didn't know they were a clown show.
They don't, but that's what makes it even better as a clown show. Imagine these circus shows up.
I know.
And they don't know it's a circus.
Yeah.
They think they're like serious acting.
That would be a film.
Yeah.
That would be an avant-garde film.
I mean, that's the WSL though.
It really is.
It's
genius.
Perfect comedy. And that's why, of course, you get, to me, talked about the cake and the frosting with Kelly before. The cake of the WSL, they think it's about high performance surfing. Like when Eric, he took it down, but when he wore the world's largest lei, I don't know why he took that video down, but maybe I looked at the wrong place for it. But it wasn't on Reel or whatever. Yeah. Stupid Instagram, and they're like perpetual changing of stuff. Oh man, that's a real old man rant right there. Leave it the same. But he was saying there, he said it was a short speech, like whatever, thanking Tahiti for having him back or something like that after, COVID and however long they had not been to Teahupo'o. But he said in that 15-second or 30-second clip, the world's best surfers, the world's best surfers, the world's best surfers, like 8 times, right? Where that's what they think it is. That's on their mission board, world's best surfers, world's best surfing, world's best surfers, world's best surfing, right? Sure, that exists. I will say that yes, the world's best surfers, by and large, are on the WSL, right? I mean, there's Clay Marzo and there's these guys who you could argue are phenomenal in something, but the world's best surfers, by and large, are on the WSL. That's true. That's the frosting on the cake. The cake is the stinking circus clown show. So you're watching this comedy show, you're listening to Joe Turpel, you're watching them not talk about Philippe bobbing out the back, just laughing. And then you get like some great, a Matthew McGillivray sliding in. And then you get to go, whoa. So you get that too.
Turns out twice a year we get the frosting.
Yeah.
When they're in the right venue and the waves are good.
Totally.
But yes.
But but that's not why I watch as much for the comedy as I do I watch more for the comedy than I do for the performances.
Right. But like you said, this is the most you've watched all year. So you're not even willing to watch when it's a beach break.
No.
Exactly.
Heck no.
Yeah. Well, I'm so glad that you brought up your journalist, why you call yourself a surf journalist, how you got into, quote, surf journalism, because we got quite a rant about your and my journalistic efforts.
Let's hear it.
Before we hear it, I think it's worth me saying in advance rather than after. I think that I have found the anonymous TikToker who outed Andy Lyon.
Ooh, is it this person?
I think it is. Wow. They do not identify themselves in this call.
So they called the listener line and
did not identify themselves.
Okay.
The listener line has caller ID. And so it shows people's phone numbers. It doesn't show their names, but it always shows phone numbers. And then their call comes in that says unknown.
Yeah.
Then the listener goes on to rant about this exact Andy Lyon situation, doesn't identify themselves. I think this is the TikToker.
Okay, let's see.
Okay, you tell me. And then there's much, much more to discuss, but I'm pretty sure this is the TikToker. He also, another bit of evidence or reason why I think is he refers to him correctly as Andy Lyon. Everybody else refers to him as Andy Lyons.
Oh, is Andy Lyons not correct?
I think it's Andy Lyon.
Okay.
When I initially kind of told the story, I made a note that it was Andy Lyon, not Lyons. And every other time I've seen it, it's Lyons. And then this person's using Lyon correctly. I'm pretty sure this is...
Okay, let's go. Let's go. I'm excited.
It's exciting. He's pissed. Yeah.
All right, guys. Hot-headed rant about the Andy Lyon story coming at you. Barrel or not, journalistic integrity in the year 2022. I know that Chaz uses the term surf journalist sort of in jest, but you guys are, by all accounts, journalists in the surf space. Whether that's necessary or not is up for debate, but you are a journalist and you've put yourself in that position. Now, any journalist worth their weight in salt who is presented with that Andy Lyon story would have done, at very least, a few things. And that would be, number one, talk to Andy. Number two, talk to the guy who got his board smashed. And number three, try to talk to witnesses who are there, either in the water or on the beach, and hear their story and sort of triangulate those three things and see what the actual story was. But what did you guys do? I think there was one person there who reached out to Andy and did an interview, if you can even call it that, who basically just let Andy rant for 30 minutes, uninterrupted, didn't ask any probing questions, didn't push back on anything, just chimed in a couple of times to sort of massage his ego and maybe affirm the fact that, yes, indeed, COVID surfers are the worst. But other than that, what else did you guys do? You just watched a sensationalized viral TikTok video that was made to make Andy look like an awful human being. And then you had that 30-minute rant, and you kind of just went off of whatever Andy said and took that for truth. And so anybody in a similar situation to Andy, where they had an embarrassing moment caught on tape, and they had the video go viral, and then they were given 30 minutes to talk about it, anybody in that situation would probably embellish a few facts. They might omit some facts. They may even lie just to try to make themselves not look as bad. And then on top of that, you've got Andy, who by all accounts is an egotistical maniac who sees himself as sort of the heir to the throne at Malibu and the gatekeeper there, and is drunk off of his own legacy. And what you did is you took what he said in that 30 minutes and just kind of took it for fact and based your opinion off that, saying that, yeah, okay, this other guy was probably some COVID surfer, was probably paddling around Andy. Andy had warned him, and all this other stuff. Who knows if any of that is true? It may all be in Andy's head that he warned him, but you kind of base your opinions off of that. And I just think that as journalists, you sort of have a responsibility to uphold some level of journalistic integrity. And maybe that's to look into the situation more, to try to interview those people, to find out some more details, or in the case that maybe you don't have the time, you don't have the money, you don't have the resources, or maybe you just simply don't have the interest, have the integrity to pass on a story. So I know that the whole surfing world wants you to comment on Andy Lyon and what happened. Maybe just say, hey, we don't have the time, money, interest, whatever, to look deeper into this. So you know what? We're just going to pass on it because we don't have any information that everyone else doesn't already have. So have the integrity to do that. So I don't know. I still think that journalistic integrity is a barrel in 2022. Definitely interested to hear what you guys think about that. Keep up the work, I guess. See you guys.
Boom.
100%. 100% is the dude. That is the dude who shot the TikTok, made the Instagram account, Andy Lyon is a kook, whole nine. You're exactly right.
Nailed it.
Talk about surf journalism right there.
Boom.
That is some surf journalism.
Thank you.
We did it. You did it.
I still don't know who it is.
Bravo.
But they came out of the wood.
That is the person who made the Instagram account right there.
100%.
Yep.
And especially like the investedness in doubling down on Andy and who he is and his role and like, but let's talk about the call.
Okay. So caller, love you. Think that journalistic integrity is also important. I feel that we knew everything we needed to know about. There's nothing about that story, the Andy Lyon story, that is needed to be known more. Like, here's the whole point. This was a microcosm moment of surf rage incidents that happen all around the world more and more frequently with more crowded lineups. Now, I have no idea. The guy who got his rock thrown at his board, good on him for not going to the cops, right? Other than that, I don't know. Like, he didn't look like a COVID surfer necessarily. He also wasn't ripping, right? He was out there kind of going straight on a retro board on a day at Malibu. So whatever. Like, I don't need to know anything about that guy. That guy is a blank slate for a story about surf rage. Now, Andy, as the surf rager, right? Like, I get it. I get why you're mad, but like we discussed, you're being mad like that at Malibu is silly. Like, so like, what part of the story, like, what adds anything? If we went and said, the guy said, no, Andy never said anything to me. He'd burned me 15 times and whatever. And I've been surfing at Malibu for 3 years.
Now we got to go talk to everybody to validate whether it was 15 times or not.
Like, I mean, the silly thing is none of it changes the story. The story is a story about about surf rage in general, not about if the surf rage was warranted or not.
I'm going to back up before that. He started the call with the premise of, you are, quote, by all accounts, surf journalists in the surf space, unquote.
Great.
No, we're not. We've stated explicitly over and over, we are not journalists. We did not go to school for journalism. We do not ever implement journalistic rigor that is required of journalists. We are here strictly to lampoon and comment on stories that are actually being written elsewhere oftentimes.
But I will say that, like, if I catch a lead, I'll follow leads up, right? Like, I'll do my sort of, and I think we do it on the show too. We interview people. We talk about, like,
never from a journalist standpoint. And I understand that we come across as journalists, maybe in the space and to some of the listeners, but I've stated over and over, I don't want the burden that comes with being a journalist. Some podcasters are journalists, and there's those that exist. but the terms aren't interchangeable. We are here for entertainment purposes.
That's true. But I will say, I think that we do a form of journalism on this show, and I try to do a form of journalism. Of course, I'm not super rigorous, but like, I think what I feel we do on the show is journalistic in that it paints a picture of a, space, of a real space, and, asks different questions about it, goes into different angles about it. Of course, it's not like crazy rigorous, but sometimes we do.
But if we held ourselves to the standards of journalists and checking facts,
this is not that show.
No, this show would never get made. Imagine if we actually took his advice and actually did or didn't comment on stories that we didn't have all the facts for.
I mean, that'd be silly.
We'd show up every week and be like, we have nothing to say this week. Yep. Sorry, we'll see you next week.
Yep.
It would take a month to research, and that's great. And that's why NPR exists and all these other journalistic outlets exist. That's not what this show is. We never have all the facts. But what you're saying is true, which is, here's a little tidbit of what happened. And we look at it and we go, I remember that's happened to me. I've experienced exactly that, or I've witnessed something similar to that. And in fact, that story is relatable everywhere around the world. Cool. Let's take that little morsel, extrapolate on it, discuss the themes. And yeah, we are now using, as you said, a straw man. And we even said, I didn't go back to listen to our conversation from last week, but I remember saying through that conversation, Andy said this that may or may not be true. We don't have all the context, but this is what was stated in the comments section. So all of this is with a grain of salt. We've stated that over and over again.
With this story specifically, though, talk about a giant waste of time of going and talking to bystanders and
because it's not actually an important story.
And also, it doesn't change any part of the story, right? Like, it doesn't matter if that was his first day at Malibu or he's been there for 5 years. For sure, he's not whoever that dude has not been there. He wasn't Andy Lyon's age, right? So he has not been surfing as long as Andy Lyon's.
Yeah.
Andy Lyon, considers himself to be a enforcer out there, just like at almost any decent lineup around the world, there's a dude out there who considers himself the dude, right?
Totally.
So, I mean, that's the story. Whatever this guy is talking about, I don't even know what that would be. Like, so going to saying, okay, Andy didn't tell me, and then Andy threw a rock on my board. Yeah, because he has surf rage. Like, that happens. That's the story. It's a story of surf rage.
Completely. We had the essence of that's what we were discussing.
Yes.
I agree with you. The details don't matter.
It does zero matter.
Further, I'm presuming he's the TikTok maker. He may not be, but he was still anonymous on this call.
Yeah, surf journalism.
So whether or not this is the same person or not,
let's assume.
Let's go with that. We don't have all the facts. Let's run with it. This is the exact problem with remaining anonymous.
Yeah.
Okay. Is that you allow other people to control the narrative. So this TikToker set off a bomb, now couldn't control where all the shrapnel went. Right. And so Andy, realizes in the modern world, there's no such thing as bad publicity. So Andy is leveraging all of this conversation. He goes, oh, you're not even going to chime in and give your side? Sweet. I'll just give my side over and over. He's done it so effectively. I bet he's now selling real estate based on his profile being elevated by this bad behavior.
Sure.
So you anonymous person now anonymously calling, angry about where the shrapnel landed. It's your fault.
Yeah.
It's entirely your fault. And you pointing the finger of blame at us saying, hey,
you talked about this thing without the facts.
You talked about it. And by the way, you should have interviewed all these other people. Dude, you were on the beach with a camera. Yeah. Why didn't you go interview all those people? You could have gotten all their stories on the spot and presented a more accurate thing for us to discuss.
It's funny.
We're the pundits. We're not the journalists.
I wonder how much this happens in life of somebody, because that Andy Lyon is a kook Instagram account and the whole thing, the video, all of that was created to shame Andy and to get the mob on Andy, right? To get him fired. So initially it started to work, right? Like he made this TikToker caller made the account, got Andy fired from his real estate job initially. But then, it went a different direction. And I wonder how many people who do anonymous kind of let's get the internet mob on somebody, like where it does, like you say, the shrapnel goes unintended places and they're like, oh, oh, like they felt so much rage. This caller felt so much rage at Andy, right? Like maybe has personal beef with Andy for, surfs Malibu too. And Andy's just a dick out there, right? And this guy is so sick of him and assumes that everybody else is so sick of him and assumes also that that behavior is everyone hates it. And so makes this thing, but then, people talk semi-positively about, of course, I don't like dicks in the lineup either, right? Like they suck. People who care so much. I mean, but the thing is, I suppose anybody who surfed long enough should have some self-awareness that they at one time or another have been the dick.
Oh my gosh.
Right?
Yeah.
I have screamed at an old lady. And I'll say it one more time, screamed in her face. She was like 76 probably. I was out on a small day, and she dropped in right in front of me. I guess it was big enough to have kind of fun. Dropped in right in front of me. I whistled. She didn't get off the wave. Happened again. Happened a third time. Third time I hooted and was like, "What's your deal?" Paddled up to her and started screaming in her face. I said, "What is your deal? That is 3 times. Get out of the way." I was paddling first. I said, "You fucking don't know the fucking rules." Like just went off on an old lady. I was Andy Lyons that day, right? So
did she cry? Like what did?
No, she just got mad. She was incensed. She's like, "I've been surfing longer than you. The rules are if you're paddling first, you get the wave."
Wow.
Yeah. So I was like, I literally blew up, felt justified, just like I'm sure Andy felt justified throwing the rock. So this caller inner with the TikToker, let's call him the TikToker, with the trying to shame someone, it is the classic, he who is without sin cast the first stone, right? Like all of us have surf rage. So I'm not about to throw a stone at Andy. Sure. Like I wouldn't done, that was awkward, but I've been there. I know how that feels. You know how that feels. Everybody knows how it feels. This TikToker pretending not to know how that feels, or really so self-dissolute or
importance?
No, a false sense of self.
Okay.
That he thinks, well, I've never done that. I can shame Andy because I am above reproach. In the lineup, I am a perfect example of civility and whatever. Screw that.
Yeah.
We've all been there, man.
I agree.
So that's why Andy Lyons, sure, throwing a rock, may have been over the line, but
I don't know. There's an incredible, I sense a real sense of privilege in that call, like of always kind of gotten what I wanted, never been told no, never been disciplined or argued against or whatever. It's just, this is the way the world is. This is how the world should be. And probably Andy to a certain degree is this way too. It's just, this is the way things are.
Sure.
And so you're confronted with some resistance and you become so not disillusioned, but like the entire world has changed.
Yeah.
And because you were going down this road, you can't get off that road. And initially, it's like your ideals, they all make sense, and they actually still make sense. It's good that you have those ideals, but everything around you has changed.
Yeah.
And now you just sound like a crazy person, unacknowledging that it's not just 1 or 2 people in the lineup or 1 or 2 people that are going to see Andy's, as wrong as Andy was, see that he had rational, that there's a part of it that's relatable.
We've
to
all
not
been
see
there.
any of that and just be like,
you got the story wrong because
exactly.
you made Andy, allowed him a platform to
it's a real lack of like critical thinking because it compromises your own worldview or your own ideology.
Would love another call-in.
Of course we're going to get one. I mean, I would love to get one. I mean, even going through this initially I'm like, oh, this is critical of us. And then like within 8 seconds, I'm like, oh no, this is pure gold. This is pure. And then 12 seconds in, I go, wait a second.
This is him.
Only the TikToker himself would have this exact amount of information, this exact ire, this exact stance on all of these details.
Totally. Because
full reveal.
I mean, completely, because nobody who just watched that video and then heard about it would have such beef, really want, no, the story is wrong.
And calling from an unknown number was also like, I literally, before I even pressed play on the call, I thought that was weird because I just see all these numbers and I see one. I'm like, I think that's happened like twice.
Yeah.
I get a dozen calls a week. It's happened twice in a year.
Yeah.
You know, like that's weird. And then when this was the call, I'm like, oh my gosh.
TikToker.
Dude, I got a bunch of subjects and that we're just going to not address this week.
Because
we're running out of time.
Are you sure it's because we didn't do the journalistic integrity due to...
That's true. I am having integrity.
What are we not going to talk about because we have integrity?
Well, I think maybe we save them for next week.
Okay, great.
There's a bunch of, actually, it was going to be a perfect segue into these fight stories. There's
Great.
a bunch of fight stories. Yeah. We don't have the time. Dane's new film, I want to discuss. We don't have the time. We'll come back maybe to it next week, depending on what happens between now and then. But let's go to commercial, then we'll come back with Barrel or Not. Bubbacoos.com.
Man, you know what I'm craving?
Always?
Bubba Coos. I just went on to my computer, got a new computer, runs real fast, has a nice crisp screen. A Bubba Coos ad popped up.
No way.
For the Nashville Hot,
yes,
I do believe.
That was in my notes.
It looked so good.
Okay, first of all, the reason why it was in my notes is I did not get that when we were there. But how good is Nashville hot chicken, full stop?
The best.
And it was a real niche thing up until 3 years ago, let's say. For whatever reason, fried chicken has become all the rage. I presume everywhere, certainly in California.
Yep.
In the Nashville hot version of it that's slathered in hot sauce.
The best.
Pickles, it's the best
Coleslaw?
version. Yes.
Yeah.
Bubba Coos puts it in a burrito.
Epic. I mean, that's why daughter goes to Vanderbilt, which is in Nashville. So I get to have Nashville hot chicken sandwiches in Nashville. That Bubba Coos one, burrito, Nashville hot, looked as good, if not better, because you know what kind of drags a Nashville hot chicken sandwich down?
Too much bread.
Too much bread. The bun.
Yeah.
And so throw a burrito around that thing.
Yeah.
Boom.
Put a burrito around anything, right?
Yeah.
So we talk about Bubba Coos. We talked about the Chihuahua last week, which is fried rice, and it all sounds pretty bad calorically. Guess what? They also have a Whole Foods menu. You can go onto their website, go to menu. There's keto options. There's vegan options. There's a Whole Foods menu. So you can just order off things that are already on the menu, but get a guide for which ones are Whole Foods. So it's all good.
It's brilliant when you can go somewhere if your significant other eats differently than you.
Yes.
Say you eat healthy and they eat like junk food or vice versa, right? It's wonderful. Like sometimes when the wife tells me we're going to go out and eat at X healthy spot, I think, oh, it's probably good for me, but I don't get excited.
Right.
But if I get to go to Bubba Coos and she can eat healthy and I can eat the Nashville hot burrito, not that that's not healthy. Maybe it's healthy.
Well, it's fried chicken. and so it's not the portrait of health, but you fill it in with some athletic greens, you get all your nutrients, and then you can splurge.
It's true.
On the Nashville
It's
hot.
trit.
I'm always going to splurge if I ever see a Nashville hot chicken anywhere on any menu. But bubbacoos.com, use on their website code THEGRIT15, the number 15. You'll get 15% off your next order. It doesn't work on the app, but it works on the website itself.
Worth going to the website.
Yeah, save the 15%.
Yeah.
And obviously, they're from New Jersey, surf skate background, working their way with franchises across the U.S. So if you're interested in getting rich off Nashville hot chicken sandwich, hot chicken burritos, then consider that. But go to bubbacoos.com and inquire there. All right, Chaz, we're back. Barrel or Nah to close out the show. I actually got a call for this one.
Great.
So back to listener calls.
Did our TikTok caller? He threw some barrels or not in there. I think it was supposed to be a barrel or not, right? Was journalistic integrity a barrel or not? Was that the premise of the call?
Yeah, that was. He disguised it thinly as that, but we're not going to address whether it's actually barrel or not. This is from a listener, local listener apparently. So,
Chaz, David, have a barrel or not for you. So I was out at Uppers this past weekend and saw a common sight of two dads on fire wires and their sons on their, chipped out 4-foot surfboards, all sitting in a little pack right on top of the Uppers Peak, right in the thick of it. And the sons are maybe 10 years old, dads are about 40 years old. They're all chatting, having a good time. And one son asks his friend, the other son, "Hey man, can you do a roundhouse?" Instead of responding directly to his friend, the son turns to his dad and asks, "Hey dad, can I do a roundhouse?" And you can see the whole lineup perk up to listen to the dad's response. And he gives a quick and resounding, "Of course you can, son." So I got a little chuckle out of this interaction, but my barrel or not to the grit community is barrel or not, speaking on behalf of your child. Anyways, keep up the work.
So it's actually kind of a cute interaction. I don't think this is nearly as egregious as other versions of it that I've seen, but the barrel or nah of speaking for your child is relevant. I see that happen in really egregious ways sometimes.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, ordering your kid,
Yeah.
waitress turns to your kid, what do you want? And the parent chimes
says,
up. And the kid's fully of age that they can speak for themselves.
Yeah.
So barrel or nah, speaking for your kid.
I think in this specific surf incident, I think, no barrel there either. I like that the kid asked his dad. I think this should be, instead of like bragging about stuff, like because
like the kid's so cool. He's like, Dad, tell him.
Yeah.
Tell him.
I mean, either that's like a nice flex, but also like if I'm in the lineup and somebody say this would never happen, but somebody says, hey, can you do a nice bottom turn? Right? What do I know? Like, I don't know if it's nice. Like it's a better address to somebody else. Hey, can he do a good bottom turn? Right? Like
this is a sophisticated kid.
Your own
who
surf,
knew that he shouldn't be his own judge.
You cannot be your own judge in the surf. That aside, speaking for your kids is absolutely no barrel. Like raising little jackasses who cannot look people in the eye and speak clearly, like is a plague, right? Like
inhibiting their social skills.
Yeah. The kid who like sits and when you talk to him directly and can't make eye contact and mutters, like that happens all the time, right? Where that is bred from speaking for your kids, I think partially. Yeah. Like look, unless you have severe autism, look somebody in the eye and answer and have your kid do it clearly, loudly.
Yeah. Like, I mean, I think everybody can agree on this. And I feel like a lot of parents who even have like the best interest in heart get in their own way.
Of course. I mean, I think
they're overthinking it.
And you don't want to see your kids, like my kid is named Hemingway, right? It's a long name that's not very common as a first name, right?
Less so for a girl.
Yeah. And so for her whole life, she has had to introduce herself, Hemingway, and have adults be like, huh? And then, has to like figure out how to say it clearly. And it's served her well. Like she is, enunciate when she talks. She speaks at a nice, clear volume. She will look in the eyes. Like none of this squirrely behavior. Don't like it. No barrel.
She's even been on air, on camera here. And I will ask her a question about, I remember last time it was just about homeschooling and her experience with homeschooling.
Yep.
And I direct the question at her. She answers me directly. You get out of the way. You don't interject when she hits a pause,
Yep.
So you've done a great job with her in this specific respect.
Let the kids speak. Completely. Let the children speak.
And I think that the reason why parents do it, from what I've seen, is the kid is stumbling or uncomfortable, or they realize the waitress is busy and they want to expedite this process. So they're just giving the information that needs to be delivered.
Easy way out.
But I agree. This undermines the waitress being late to her next table is worth your kid's social development.
It's worth communication across the board.
Agreed.
Yep.
Agreed. Do not speak for your kid.
Nope. No barrel.
No barrel. But that is a funny interaction in the lineup too.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is kind of in the lineup, some people's voice carries.
Yeah.
And it's like, you can kind of hear them from far away.
Yeah. Oh man, there was a talker in the line at my surf yesterday. So it was so annoying. So like I'm down with, sometimes it's fun. It's always fun, I suppose, but some conversations you think, oh, they're having a nice conversation. This guy was thinking, why are you talking? You're so dumb.
I hate that guy.
So dumb. Yeah.
I hate that guy so much. All right. Barrel or nah? Dudes wearing bracelets.
No barrel.
I can't imagine this being barrel at all.
I was thinking about this on the way up. I was thinking about a lot on the way up, apparently. I will say it again, only appropriate jewelry for a man to wear is a wedding ring and a wristwatch. Anything outside of that, you are off the reservation, buddy. Like
CJ with your gold necklace.
Yeah, go for it. Do it.
Noah with your gold necklace.
You be you, but know that you have to answer for that thing. Like you have to wear it confidently enough because you're not supposed to be wearing that. You as a man are not supposed to be wearing that, so you better really own it. Like Johnny Depp and his 18,000 pendants. Like
scarves.
Yeah, it's all fine and good. He makes it work, but he shouldn't be doing that.
Eric with your giant lei, world's largest lei.
Exactly.
We were watching, there's a Netflix show called Love is Blind.
Yeah.
It's like a dating show.
Mm-hmm.
And it dawned on me, every single one of those dudes
was wearing a bracelet.
not only had a bracelet, they had the exact same bracelet.
Ooh,
And
leather?
no, it's one now, because I saw it on that show, now I'm seeing it everywhere. It's beaded. It's like a string that has beads on it.
Is it like a Buddhist thing or something?
No, I thought about that too.
A beaded bracelet.
Yes.
Okay, I'm gonna be on the lookout.
I'll send you an example in a photo somewhere, and then you can be on the lookout.
Okay.
But
Oh, is it brown beads?
Yes.
Yeah, I know the one. I know the one. Yeah.
And I was like, okay, when did this, I'm now seeing it on TV. When did this trend start? And is there just some massive retailer that like this is their accessory that caught wind this season? I don't pay any attention to fashion, so I have no idea, but that's got to be it. So I then started noticing out in the real world that people were doing this. And I see a lot of dudes stacking bracelets.
Yeah.
Like they have a bunch.
Yep.
And then soon to be or future brother-in-law, we're over at Lauren's house, future brother-in-law, who's like young and we relate on all these different levels. He's wearing one.
Yeah.
And he doesn't have a lot of artifice in a lot of other ways. So I was like,
bracelet.
He had the bracelet, and I didn't address it with him that day. It was kind of uncomfortable to have the conversation.
You should have done some journalism right there.
I will in the future. I'll have because I didn't want him to feel bad about it. And I felt like no matter how I addressed it, it would shame him a little bit.
I mean, if you
questioning his fashion sense, you know?
Yeah, that's true. That how I get around that, if you want some helpful advice, if you're like rude and blunt and like off all the time, then people don't get their feelings as hurt.
I like it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like they just
I'll
think,
start
yeah, they think
implementing
this
that.
guy asks dickish questions. Like that's part of his thing.
Well, all I really wanted, I didn't want to question his advice. I really just wanted to know, where did you see this?
Yeah.
Like, why did you choose to buy it? So I can get to do my journalistic research and get to the bottom of where this trend started.
Yeah. It's a great, I'm curious myself.
There was a period of time where if a dude had a bracelet on, it said something.
Yeah.
It was either, he's Italian American, or his daughter made this. There was something. There was a story. It was like, but now it's just this is the ubiquitous bracelet that everybody wears because they're cognizant of fashion.
Yeah, really weird.
I'm
gonna if I see next one I see in the wild, I'm gonna do my journalistic integrity and ask too.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. We'll get to the bottom of this. Call in.
Yeah.
Call in and reveal yourself. Either way, it's not a great look.
Yeah.
Like now if you're doing it without any story or meaning, there's no point in doing it.
Well, and I like added to men should not wear anything other than a ring or a wristwatch, and anything you add, be prepared to answer for it. The real thing is, if your answer is, it was a gift or my kid made it for me, that is a fine answer, right? That goes into okay, you are appropriately wearing something else, even though you maybe shouldn't be, but you are. There's a reason for it, a gift or a thing. That bracelet is not a gift, I guarantee. And same with Kanoa Igarashi's chain. He bought it for himself.
Yeah.
If you are buying jewelry for yourself as a man, adornment, other than a wristwatch, as a man, then,
What if you're a rapper?
even then.
Wow.
Yep.
Gonna get a bunch of blowback from the rap community.
I mean, all our rap listener fan base. I mean, rapper fan base.
Barrel or gnaw? Jaywalking.
Barrel.
You're advocating for breaking the law.
Yes. I will say, okay, here's something that makes me furious, crosswalk or not. People who walk slow across the street and hustle across the street.
Oh, yeah.
No matter what.
If there's a car coming, get up and go.
For sure. Don't especially, but jaywalking forces this since you're in the wrong. I like street hustling. So, right. Like people who take their time in the crosswalk because I am in the right. I have 25 more seconds to cross, mister. I am going to walk as slow as I can in my right. That's super annoying. But the jaywalking erases that problem because they are in the wrong. They're breaking the law, hustling.
So I've always jaywalked. Going to the beach is essentially where I jaywalk. Because it saves me time. I'm not going to walk all the way down to the crosswalk, and I can do it safely because I'm by myself and whatever. There's no cars coming.
Yeah.
So there's no threat, right? As I've become a father and now I'm walking 4 miles a day with a stroller, I am even more barrel on jaywalking.
Yes.
You would think I would go the other way. No, I'm more barrel on jaywalking. The most dangerous moments I've had with that stroller are in crosswalks.
Yep.
So ultimately my goal is to avoid vehicles and the threat thereof.
Yeah.
There's nowhere where there's more vehicles than at a stoplight with a crosswalk. And where you really run into these problems are the people turning right.
Yep.
So the light is red, but I'm coming across the crosswalk and they can't see me because there's 2 lanes of traffic to their left. They're approaching the crosswalk and they're essentially going to roll past and through to look for traffic. But if I come across at the right exact wrong moment, they could potentially
Squish
hit me.
you.
So I have to be vigilant of that right turn lane car coming and seeing me. It creates a real problem, and I am vigilant. Go ahead.
The problem with, keep going.
Okay, so I am vigilant, and I do avoid all those things, but I'm on high alert. However, if I avoid the crosswalk altogether, I can always find a point in the street where I can see traffic for 1 mile in either direction, and there's no cars coming. I can easily cross there safely. No problem at all, because I'm also vigilant in that scenario. And like I said, I wouldn't do it around a blind turn. I wouldn't do it if there's a car 100 yards away, but I think I can run and make it. I would never make that judgment call. But I can always cross more safely somewhere in the street other than the crosswalk. Full stop.
I think the problem with the crosswalk is responsibility gets kind of shared. Like
Yes.
it's assumed that the pedestrian is in the right, but you have to account for either cars not paying attention or drivers not paying attention or whatever. But so that like this shared assumption like raises the craziness by a huge amount. When you're jaywalking, there's no assumption that you're in the right. And so you have to be fully responsible for what's happening, right?
Yes.
It's not like
Totally.
this shared thing of we are both being responsible. No. Like,
I take full responsibility.
yep.
Yes.
I say get rid of crosswalks altogether.
Entirely.
Make everything jaywalking.
I'm not sharing my responsibility of my child with any stranger.
Nope.
And now there's 40 because we're at a stoplight.
Yep.
And they're coming from all different directions.
Yep.
That's way too much. Putting the responsibility
On
into
other people.
strangers' hands. Not going to take that chance.
Nope.
I'm doing it. I'm crossing on my own when there's no cars around.
Jaywalk.
Full barrel jaywalk. We advocate for it.
Makes me want to go paint up crosswalks. Like paint them over black.
Yeah.
So every pedestrian is just fully responsible.
That might be taking it a step too far legally. I can't advocate for that. But jaywalk all you want.
Yep.
Well, man, hey, it's been a great show. It's great to be back.
Fantastic to be back.
Album Surf, thank you for hosting us.
So much. Beautiful place. Come
Beautiful
on by.
place.
If you're anywhere near San Clemente,
It's the best.
swing on in.
It's the best. Chaz, where can people find you?
At beachgrit.com on my new computer. You
At
can come
Surf Journalist.
very fast at Surf Journalist.
Cool.
Yep.
All right. Well, I guess we will see you next week. We're giving away the Panda Shiitake next week. I
Yes.
forgot we should have said that at the beginning of the show.
Panda shiitake. Can we
Yeah.
add it in?
Yeah, let's add it. Panda Shiitake coming hot next week.
I had a panda board in my garage for a little while. I think, what was it for? It was for some beach grit thing. Can't remember what, long time ago.
Another loaner that you never
No,
gave
it wasn't
back?
mine, and I couldn't ride it, but I just sat and looked at it in my garage, and it looked like such a fun board.
Beauties.
Yeah.
Total beauties. Yeah, Blake's
I
doing
want
great
one.
work.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, someone's going to win one next week. Panda Shiitake. It's the Everyman board.
I might
It's got
subscribe.
a Twinser setup. There you go.
I could win one.
Yeah. So listeners, we do this because we need your support. We need the support for kind of the hard cost of the show, but also the investment in the future. I got a quote recently out kind of building out the video, the YouTube channel thing. It's not cheap.
No.
These things cost money. So we want to kind of invest in the future of the show, and your support allows us to do that and to guarantee that I can continue to pay that person because we know the support will keep coming.
You know what else we can put that money to?
Hmm.
Asking the person Andy Lyons cut off. We could drive to Malibu.
We could hire a journalist.
Yeah. Ooh, we could.
Since I clearly am not identifying as, we should just hire a journalist. Send him on the road. Maybe the Inertia's got one for hire.
I don't think so. I don't think they do journalism either.
Yeah. All right. Well, subscribe on surfsplendorpodcast.com. $5 a month. You won't notice it missing, but it goes a long way to support our work.
Thank you.
All right. Until next week, Chaz and Hannah.
Bon voyage.